YouTube vinyl community, Monkees fans, random people on the internet, my name is Giggens, and we're here today to talk about the Monkees album Head, released in December of 1968, and one of the most interesting releases in their catalog. This was the last full Monkees album with everybody on it until 1996 when Just Us came out. This was the last one with Peter, and then after that, Mike eventually left, but this album is kind of a play-by-play document of the movie. And if you haven't seen the movie, this is the soundtrack to it. Head is a very abstract, artsy movie with a lot of bits and pieces kind of strung together with a central theme of the Monkees having to escape something and doing anything they can to get out of a situation, basically proving over and over again that they know they were manufactured, but they're actually a real group now. And they had since proved that with Headquarters and a couple other albums after that before this one came out. So they were really doing well in the charts on their own as an actual band, touring and writing songs and playing on their albums. And they were super stoked about that. And in the early 68, when their TV show ended, they kind of thought, well, let's do something for our grown-up audience. So they made this wacky, far-out movie, and it was a kind of a flop. This album itself only hit number 45 on the charts. It was their worst charting album at that point. Everything else they'd put out had been in the top 5. So for them to have an album that really didn't do well and a movie that didn't do well, it was kind of like, what's happening in the Monkees camp here? Porpoise Song, which came off this, only peaked at number 62 in 1968. I love this album, but it's also a head scratcher because it's basically a Monkees EP with a bunch of filler dialogue and bits and pieces from the movie. So it's more of an experience than an album per se. So in that regard, they did a great job of capturing the movie on a record and kind of giving you the feel and the idea of the movie, but as a listening experience. So for that, very commendable job. They really did a knockout job with that. Musically, it's awesome. It really is some of the best stuff they ever made. It opens up with this thing called Opening Ceremony, which is basically just bits and pieces, a sound montage, if you will, kind of introducing you to the world of Head and how wacky and far out this thing is. And then you get Porpoise Song, which is easily one of their grooviest, most heavily psychedelic songs they ever put out. It's just this dreamy, elongated track that really sucks you into this different world, and it's the theme to the movie. I get to see them jumping off the bridge in the beginning of the movie to this song. It's fantastic. It's usually on most greatest hits albums because it's definitely a hit. It's a shame that it didn't do better on the charts because it's truly a knockout of a song. Love it. Diddy Diego War Chant. So this is basically the Monkees letting it all out. They know they were manufactured, but they also know that they're more than that. And they've been more than that for a while at this point, well over a year. So it's kind of funny how they're making this serious movie, but there's still lots of bits of comedy and humor throughout this thing. It's not all serious. So, this is one of those moments where they're very tongue-in-cheek with the audience. Circle Sky comes up next, and for a song that only features one monkey on it, this is a hell of a song. In the movie, it's a live version, but on the record, it's a studio one. And the other guys were not happy about being left off this track. Mike had some session guys come in, and they banged it out, and it sounds awesome. That descending riff, Mike's vocals buried in the mix, give it even more of a psychedelic feel than it already is. But this thing is such a groove. It rollicks along the whole time. It's just a fun, upbeat, rockin' track. Really, really, really cool song. Band E, as they call it, bands, not track. Supplicio. It's just more dialogue from the movie. And then you get Can You Dig It, written by Peter Tork. And I love the magic on this one, man. It's just a well-picked acoustic. Those chimes that accent the whole thing. It gives it this sound as if The Circle would have done it. Like vocally, I can hear the guys from The Circle doing this one. It's mystical, it's rocking, it's confident. It's just a groovy, hippie type of song. And I mean, Peter wrote 2 songs on this album, and that one is a knockout. I love that thing. Then you get Gravy, which is just Davey asking for some gravy. Side 2 opens up with some more dialogue from Bela Lugosi, which is pretty cool, as it leads into As We Go Along, which is an absolutely charming little song featuring guitar work from Ry Cooder and Neil Young. It's just a song about giving into love. It's this gentle little gem buried in their catalog that should be more well known. I love the slowly strummed guitars. Mickey's vocal on it is absolutely fantastic. It's a great little song. Definitely something to search out for. I think it's on the, yeah, it's actually on the front sticker there, As We Go Along. This is a reissue. This is a limited edition silver vinyl on Rhino Records. Big fan of that label. Love Rhino Records. Dandruff, another bit of dialogue from the movie. Daddy's Song, written by Harry Nilsson. This is Davy Jones's big solo vocal on this one. And it's a song about a boy being abandoned by his father. And it's sung in this big, happy, vaudeville, peppy sort of way. Very interesting juxtaposition there. I mean, it's a super catchy song, but a really sad story behind it. And then you get Pull, again, more dialogue. And then another Peter Tork song with long title, Do I Have to Do This All Over Again, which is a really rockin' song with Buddy Miles on drums from the band of Gypsies, Jimi Hendrix. I love this track. It's a little repetitious, but it's hypnotic because of that. And hearing Peter Tork just have his groovy little time with his lead vocal is so fun. It's just a great rockin' little track. And sometimes that's all you want. And the last thing on this album is a bit more dialogue from the movie and then a bunch of string arrangements done by Ken Thorne, the guy who did the stuff on Help by the Beatles. I knew that name looked familiar, but love the back cover of this thing. It looks like Revolver. It's such a cool back cover. And I'll show you the record because it's on that great looking silver vinyl. Look at that. It looks so good. With that Rhino label that's meant to recreate the Coal Gems label from the 60s. The original cover of this thing was shiny. It was like a mirror image shine to it. But they were really hard to produce, and by the time the mid-'80s rolled around, they kind of did a tinfoil version of it, and then by the 90s, they settled on plain gray. So that's kind of what it's been like for the last 30 years. But I love this little album. It's so weird, and it takes you on a journey all its own. If you've never even seen the movie before, maybe you'd want to see the movie. But if you haven't seen the movie and just played this album, I guess it would be a bit of a head-scratcher, but you'd also be on a journey. I mean, this is like a gateway album. If you were like 14 at the time when this came out, watching the Monkees on TV, and all the zany comedy hijinks they were getting into, and then hearing this may have been your introduction to some really far out stuff. Maybe you went to go to Pink Floyd after this one, or maybe you went to Jimi Hendrix, or whatever sort of other psychedelic music was around at the time. Maybe this was your introduction. So it's a fantastic album. It's not something for everybody because of the dialogue, bits and pieces, and for a lot of people, they just want the 6 songs on this thing and keep it as an EP and take all the other stuff off, and I can definitely understand that. But as an experience, I think it's really cool. So for me, 7 or 8 out of 10 with no problem. I'd rate it higher if there were more songs on it because I feel like they were on a roll with the songs on this thing. So a little less dialogue and a little more music, I would have given it a higher rating. But as an overall experience, it's something that I really think you should check out. So that's it. The Monkees Head. My name is Giggens. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think about this thing in the comments below. We'll get chatting about it. And see you in the next video. Bye-bye.